Welcome to Backyard Cigars. So glad that you could join me. Today I'm going to smoke a cigar by CLE, the Eiroa family, and this is none other than the Eiroa Jamastran. And we're going to take a closer look at it, and then we're going to come right back. Here we have a closer look at the Eiroa Jamastran 11 by 18. And this is a 6 1/4 by 52 Toro, but at a certain part it reaches a 60 ring gauge. So thus the size, which was really popular with the Camacho line, one particular cigar that they had, I believe. And the size is unique in how it's packaged as well. Let's take the sheath off. Take a closer look at this Honduran Puro from the Jamastran Valley, or tobaccos used in Jamastran Valley. Now, we see here, that's very Cuban-like, right? That's a very Cuban-like. But it's a Honduran Puro. Okay. Higher primings are used in this particular blend. And this has been aged for 1 year at 64-65 RH. So we're going to find out just what this tastes like. I don't know why, but whenever I see that, I kind of get excited. I kind of start to feel like maybe this is going to be a good cigar. I mean, it's not always, but it's just the way I feel about it when I see it. Welcome back. We like the way it looks, right? I mean, it's a good looking cigar. It's got a decent looking band on it. It's recognizable, right? The Eiroa name, the last name of Eiroa, and how it resonates in regards to legacy and, well, just the specialization in their crops, from their hybrids to their curing methods to everything that the Eiroa family stands for. But this cigar is calling attention to the Jamastran Valley, which is is in the northern part of Honduras and is close to Danlí and also close to the Nicaraguan border. So it shares that proximity, and it's towards the mountain area. It's a valley that is so well known, right? Is so respected. In that respect is what they're calling attention to here. They're letting you know the tobaccos of higher primings that have been used in this cigar are from the Jamastran Valley, one of the most fertile and famous and fastest growing regions for tobacco in Honduras. I'm sorry, I almost said Nicaragua, but sometimes when I'm thinking about Honduras and Nicaragua in my mind, I'm thinking of that border, and I'm thinking about how similar the tobacco can be at times and how completely unlike it can be, because there are times that the Honduran tobacco that we smoke is distinctly different, right, from the Nicaraguan tobacco, and it's its own thing. It has been for a long time. I mean, Honduras at one point was the bigger stepping stone for the expats coming from Cuba after they had been done with the Canary Islands. And they were looking for something. And yeah, Nicaragua was there on the forefront, but Honduras is where a lot of people thought this is where we can really make it work. And for some people, it did work. And for others, the instability in their political climate was just too much to gamble on. And I get that too. So where we are at right now with Honduran tobacco is probably not where we should have been, right? I guess a lot of visionaries had projected grander things for Honduras. And every now and then you see something really exciting coming out of Honduras. And most of the time it's coming from the Eiroa family, because they've got a stronghold there. Not to say that other makers aren't using Honduran tobacco and employing it in the most magnificent way. Not saying that. I'm just saying the Eiroa family, you at least for me, I think of the Eiroa family and I think of Honduran tobacco. I also think of how they incorporate it into their blends with Nicaraguan tobacco. But they make some excellent Honduran puros. And they also do this for other makers. La Azúcar, there's a number of people that the Eiroa family have worked with where some of their really good tobaccos go into the blend. But again, the Jamastran Valley is why they are giving this cigar a premium value. You look at the fact that it's $16.50 for this cigar. 6 1/4 by 52 Toro, you'd say it's a good sized cigar, ample sized. It's at a certain point the girth is going to get to 60. It doesn't look it, but that's the description in the specs. It is a nice looking cigar, and so far, getting into this first inch, although I haven't spoken about any flavors, it's burning quite well. The burn line's good, everything's good. It's a really windy day. I actually started this review a little later than I wanted to, so it's gonna get a little darker than I would have wanted it to, but nonetheless, $16.50. I think I paid about a little under 15. Maybe I got it on a deal, right? Sometimes we can get the deal, sometimes we can't. And I would gather that a lot of people might say, well, I don't know about paying $17 for a Honduran cigar, even if it's coming from the Eiroa family. I don't know if that's what I want to include in my budget. I don't know if I want to be that adventurous. I don't know if I love Honduran tobacco that much. I don't know if it's for me. And I guess that's what we're going to find out right now. Now, I've had a lot of tobacco cigars from the Eiroa family, CLE. Most of it has been wonderful. Most of it. Here and there, you'll find some stuff that's just kind of average. But this is supposed to be a little bit more premium, right? So we're going to find out just how premium it is. A little spiciness. Nuttiness. Touch of pepper. Not bad, not bad. Now, originally this was supposed to be, well, originally it was a TAA exclusive. As we know, a lot of these TAA exclusives eventually become regular productions, or they're offered in limited amounts, and they're not that difficult to obtain. And many times they can turn out to be quite the gift, quite the surprise. And other times they're underwhelming. So where do we sit with this one so far? Well, very early in the game to tell, but I'm getting a bit of cream that's developing with a hint of sweetness, and I find that the balance is pretty good. And I know someone said recently that balance is overrated, and perhaps it can be at times, but I think you either look for that balance or you look for the imbalance, and whatever suits your profile or your palate is what you would gravitate to. As a blender, I can only tell you from my discussions, from with actual blenders. As a blender, I would say, based on conversations that I've had with numerous blenders, that they would tell me their way of thinking is to look for that balance when possible. But it isn't always something that they are looking to achieve. Sometimes they want to make an overly creamy cigar. Sometimes they want to make an overly spicy cigar, right? So you're not going to have as much balance there. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a negative thing. That isn't anything to frown upon, because I've got plenty of cigars in the humidor that I reach for because I know that they lean heavily towards a certain flavor profile. And that would mean lack of balance, right? Yeah, but in a very good way. So, yeah, Bob, you're right. Balance can be overrated. And I talk about how much I like balance, but at the same time, I don't want to be a hypocrite. There are cigars that I specifically buy because they're punchier, and they just move up the ladder in a certain flavor profile that I want or crave at certain points in time. Yeah, so raw, salty nut flavor, and a bit of cream, some sweetness, not too much sweetness, a little bit of pepper. I mentioned about how the roll looks. It had a little defining character of a Cuban roll, and excuse me, that shouldn't be surprising. The Eiroa family, they are very traditional in their ways. At the same time, they're very progressive in their ways. They know how to, there goes this word again, they know how to look for this balance in how they approach cigars, right? Because they've modernized their equipment, their way of doing things, but they still maintain certain parts of the process in the most traditional, old-fashioned way. And that, my friends, is seeking balance, whether intentional or unintentional. But let me pull away from that for a moment and just go back to the cigar. Feels good in the hand, it really does. 6x52 size, one of my favorite Vitola sizes. Medium bodied, medium strength, medium in flavor. It's very medium. I have found that lately the cigars that I've had from the Eiroa family have been very medium body, not pushing towards a medium full or anything like that, just very medium. And again, a good thing, depending on what you want. Yeah, there's this, I'm getting light traces, saltiness, and cream. But there's not enough cream for me to say this is a cream bomb. Let's let it develop and see where it goes. There is something special about the Jamastran Valley, and there's no denying that. I think that when you have some of the finest stuff from Jamastran, uh, you're going to experience an uptick in the quality of that tobacco. And I personally enjoy Honduran tobacco. It isn't something that always comes to the forefront of my mind in terms of my favorite tobaccos. It does need, there still needs to be more development. I mean, as good a job as they've done, and credit to the Eiroa family and others that have been staples within the cigar community in regards to the Honduran movement. But yeah, I really enjoy smoking cigars like this. Is it Cubanesque? It is slightly Cubanesque, but certain Nicaraguan, Honduran cigars can be crafted in a way that is reminiscent of the Cuban experience. And that doesn't mean you're going to get anywhere near it in terms of like the real thing, right? But you're going to get a little bit of that aura. You're going to get a little bit of that complexity. You're going to get a little bit of that quality of flavor that we may associate with a Cuban cigar, with that little bit traces of salt. It has its own twang. I think that Honduran tobacco can be misunderstood. It can be. Some people tell me, well, I think that Honduran tobaccos, Honduran cigars, they're too spicy for me, and they're too this or they're too that. And I will agree that the same way that you're going to find some Nicaraguan cigars that are just pepper bombs, you'll find some Honduran cigars that will probably go to the extreme in certain flavors for your palate. But this isn't one of them. No siree, no ma'am. This is not one of those. This one is really a pleasure to smoke. The medium body sits well with me, especially when I haven't had a large meal. I don't find that this is an overly drying cigar, so this is good for me in the sense that I don't have to keep reaching for liquids, for water. I can enjoy it and not feel my palate, dry up on me like that. So those are pluses in terms of the experience. And the flavors, I mean, some cream, hints of pepper, the spice, but not too much spice, just enough spice with a tinge of sweetness and a little bit of saltiness. For me, the nuttiness. Yeah, you get earthiness, but you get earthiness in a lot of different tobaccos. It comes from the ground. You're gonna find certain blends that are a little bit heartier in their earthiness. This isn't one of them. Yeah, yeah, I like this, but and there is a but I don't know if I want to pay $17 for this each and every single time. It's a lot, and in this category of cigars that range from $15 to $20, especially the ones that are heading north of $15, sometimes you may question whether or not you're overpaying. Sometimes you may feel that way. I know I feel that way sometimes, and I question whether it's worth my money. Whether, of course, if you get it on a sale deal, yeah, great. But if you're paying the MSRP, the $16, $15, $17 or whatever, you can come away with it sometimes feeling that it might be a little bit too much. But the trade-off, or at least the equalizer for me, is that you are getting a guaranteed very good cigar. Not just a good cigar, but a very good cigar. And that's a step up from cigars that you may enjoy in the $10 to $12 range. That being said, I still think there are a lot of really, really good cigars in the $10 to $12 range that can give this a run for the money. Are the tobaccos coming from the Jamastran Valley? The legendary Jamastran Valley? No, they're not. So I feel like this is the building up of the brand, which has been happening for quite a while now, of the legendary Jamastran Valley. And who better to do it than the Eiroa family, of course. Everything that I've picked up on this cigar, the experience so far, tells me that this is a really high quality cigar. So who am I to argue, right? I mean, I might say it's a little too much, a little too pricey, but some people out there might say, well, it's priced accordingly, and it's priced according to the market, and it's worth it. Again, something that can be debated or argued. Some might say, well, I know AJ Fernandez typically deals more with Nicaraguan tobacco, but one might say, well, I can find some great AJ Fernandez Nicaraguan cigars, even ones employing other tobaccos from other countries, that are $9, $10. And mind you, a lot of the AJ Fernandez cigars that used to be $7 that were a steal are no longer $7. They're $8.50, $9.50, pushing $10. And it's becoming more of a thing to see these cigars that were once had for that low price of $6, $7, $7.50 for going close to $10. So with the prices rising, everything else is going to rise as well, and that's just how it is, right? So we're not going to get into the topic of inflation. We're not, because it upsets me. I know it upsets a lot of you, so we're not going to talk about that. But yeah, price aside, outstanding cigar so far. I'm going to come back and sum it all up for you. So, Ash fell again. So I detected a little bit of the wrapper splitting there, or just kind of coming undone there. And I'll smoke right through it without adding any glue, because I don't think it's that serious. But, you know, in the Jamastran Valley, it's normally filler tobacco, but they also produce some excellent wrapper tobacco. And binder tobacco, of course. But so it did feel like a thin wrapper. Now, it's about 72 degrees right now. 35% humidity, which is a low humidity. And I do feel that you have a different experience with Honduran tobacco. At least that's what comes to my mind when I've had very distinct experiences with Honduran tobacco in relation to the RH, your relative humidity. So that's something to keep in mind. I find that you get more of the Honduran twang when you have a higher humidity, and you can still enjoy the cigar very, very much, but it's different. Oh, get away. Mosquitoes are trying. It's a windy day, so my thermostat isn't working as well as I would like it to. So you do have 10-mile-per-hour gusts today with the 72-degree weather and the low RH. And I personally like Honduran tobacco when I'm smoking outdoors under a lower humidity, under 69. So under 70 is, you know, I've smoked it at 70 RH, 72 RH. A lot of twang. And that's just me. That's just my palate. That's just what I've picked up. If you've noticed that, you want to leave it in the comments, share your story. But I like smoking it under lower RH temp, and I feel like I enjoy the Honduran cigars much more, especially Honduran puros. Man, from first to second and third, I just think that the cigar has gradually improved from the first to the second and the final third, and I just feel it keeps getting better as I keep smoking it down, and that's a good thing, right? You want your cigar to be good from the beginning, and it wasn't bad from the very beginning. It was sort of just kind of little spice, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then it came into its own and by the second, third, and that's when you really started to get a grasp of all of the flavors and just the experience that you were having. It comes together. A little bit more spice there, but not overwhelming. A little bit of earth in the finish as I just got that last puff. A little bit of that Honduran twang as well. Excellent, excellent stuff. As much as I would like to sit here and smoke the entire cigar in front of you, we both know that sometimes we don't have that kind of time. And in the final third, not yet approaching nub state, but probably within the next, depending on how quickly I smoke, between the next 10 to 15, 20 minutes maybe, you're going to be heading into nub state. One thing I can say about this cigar is that it finishes strong. It finishes tasting delicious. It really is nubbable. And if you don't let it overheat, you won't get too much of that twang. At least that's what I've experienced when I let it overheat and I smoke it too quickly. And it's just a really great example of the best of what's coming out of Honduras. And I would encourage people to try it, give it a shot, see if it's for you, see if it suits your palate. And if not, then look at other different blends incorporating Honduran tobacco that may or may not pique your interest. And ultimately, your palate will be the judge if it's worth the price that they want for this cigar. Me personally, will I buy it again? If I find it on a deal, I probably will. I might reach for other CLE cigars first, but not because they're better, but just because I'm more familiar with them. And sometimes we tend to buy and reach for a lot of the cigars that we're, customarily stocking in our humidors and that we are constantly having great experiences with. This was a very good experience and one worth revisiting. Can you age this cigar? Well, this cigar was aged for about a year, unintentionally, but it was a year's time in the humidor. I've smoked it fresh, and I've smoked it with a year of age. I like it with a year of age better, but that's just my palate. That doesn't have to be your palate. You might like a little bit more of the robust flavors that come in when the cigar is pretty fresh after only a few weeks in the humidor after receiving it. And if that's your take on it and that's how you want to smoke it, I don't think that's a bad idea. But in regards to long-term aging, and it really is hard to tell sometimes unless you've done the homework, done some research, Honduran tobacco doesn't always age as well as Nicaraguan tobacco. That's just my personal opinion based on some experiences. But not all Honduran tobaccos are alike. And definitely Jamastran Honduran tobacco is unique in the way that it presents its flavor profile. So taking all that into consideration, I would say you're usually pretty good with if you want to age it for a year or two, maybe even 3 if you want a more I don't know, more muted flavors, I guess, because that will happen. Because this isn't really a full-bodied cigar. Isn't a full-bodied cigar. It's not that it really isn't, and therefore, I think that this is good to smoke fresh, and if you leave it in the humidor a year or two, you're good. Yeah, it just smokes beautifully towards the end. And yes, you'll get a little more pepper, a little more spice towards the end, but delicious. Really good cigar, good experience. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Till next time on Backyard Cigar.